I died and discovered God's mysteries. But this one revelation left me speechless. Hey there, I'm Melissa. Back in the spring of 2000, I was in the final stretch of my training to become a physician assistant PA. It was a big achievement for me, especially because I'd gotten married during my first semester and was expecting my first baby a year later. Balancing Pennsylvania school and impending motherhood felt like a whirlwind adventure. As I was wrapping up my clinical rotations and prepping for my board exams, there was a bit of a scare. During a routine ultrasound, we got wind of a potential issue with our baby's kidney. It was definitely nerve-wracking, but we tried to stay upbeat, hoping it was no big deal. Over the weekend, I did some digging and found out that a relative had faced a similar kidney problem, which was sorted out with surgery. It gave us a glimmer of hope, knowing it might run in the family. While my pregnancy progressed, my OB suggested early delivery so a specialist could check on our baby's kidney sooner. It was a tough call, but ultimately, I went for it. On July 16, 2000, I headed to the hospital to kick off the induction process. But things hit a snag when I tested positive for Group B streptococcus, which could spell trouble during childbirth. So, before we got started, I needed antibiotics. But when the penicillin hit my system, my heart started racing like crazy. It turned out I was allergic, which caught me off guard because I didn't think I had any allergies. After switching to a different antibiotic, we settled in for the night. But come morning, my contractions were fierce yet not moving things along much. After 13 hours, I was only 3 cm dilated. Since a prolonged labor could be risky, a C-section was looming on the horizon. I opted for an epidural to ease the pain, but then we noticed my baby's heart rate dropping during contractions. That was a red flag. The midwife confirmed it was dicey, and we knew what had to happen next. Even though I knew a C-section was probably in the cards, I still had a moment of emotional resistance to it, kind of like how I'd resisted the idea of having the baby early. But before we could proceed, we needed to keep a close eye on the baby's heart rate, so they had to implant a monitor into the baby's scalp. I'd seen it done before, but the thought of it being done to my own child made me cringe. As all these thoughts were swirling in my head, I felt that same fluttering in my chest from the night before, only this time it was way more intense. "I'm having trouble breathing," I managed to say. And just like that, I went from a bit short of breath to full-on gasping for air. It was chaos in the room as I was quickly shifted onto my left side to help my heart pump blood to the baby. They slapped an oxygen mask on my face, hustled my husband and mom out of the room, and I was left struggling to catch my breath in a matter of seconds. I was being rolled down the hall, just a few steps from the operating room. The bustling noises around me faded as I slipped away. The last thing I remember is the struggle to breathe, my heart stopping at 9:18 a.m. Death isn't a sudden event, it's more like a gradual transition. There was a gap between the hallway and the scene above. What happened to my awareness during that gap is a mystery. Maybe my energy condensed into a single point before expanding into a cloud of tiny particles. Or perhaps it seeped out of my body, forming a loose collection of matter hovering above. My consciousness felt detached, stretched away from my body as if time and space had expanded. I observed the room differently, seeing through the ceiling to a figure on a bed. Were they human? I didn't feel linked to my body or the people around it. I was an observer, still myself but more alive than ever. People in blue were busy around my body. One handed something to another, who hid it from me. Someone approached my head, placing something on my chest. Another person entered, glanced around, and joined the others. I wanted to know what was going on, what they were hiding, and who lay on the bed. An invisible force tugged me leftward. I resisted briefly, but the pull was strong. Whatever awaited me seemed more vital than staying put. So I surrendered. Suddenly, I was zooming through a strange space, vast yet fragile. I felt engulfed in love, free from pain, worry, or fear, just love and peace. Here, I had no desires because there was nothing to want. I found answers to nearly all my questions, except one. Then, I veered right and encountered a foggy area with shadowy figures. They resembled humans but were mere silhouettes. One looked like a boy, akin to Tom Sawyer, beckoning me to return to the physical world, urged on by the others. Entering their realm unsettled me. It lacked the warmth of the previous space. I wanted to help the boy, but the others overwhelmed me with their neediness. Unable to save them all, I wished to leave. In an instant, I departed from the dark figures, away from the boy without looking back. I returned to the embrace of divine love. Soon after, I entered what I like to call my Eden. Everything around me felt interconnected: the flowers, the waterfall, the hills, and the sky. It was a place of pure joy where I felt one with every element of the landscape, even the dense forest nearby. Despite the allure of the forest, I opted to stay in this serene place because all I desired was beauty. Then I was presented with three choices. The first was to venture into the woods, which I declined. The second was to transcend beyond my current reality, and the third was to return to my body and resume my previous life, with the obligation to share my experience to aid others. Surrounded by beauty and enveloped in love and peace, I made the decision to return. Later, I discovered that my doctor, who had just returned from his honeymoon, was the first to attend to the emergency. Rushing from his nearby office to the delivery room, he found me unconscious with my baby still inside. Despite no prior indications of complications, the situation was dire. With the assistance of other available medical personnel, they conducted emergency procedures to save both me and my baby. I spent 3 days in intensive care, in a medicinally induced coma due to complications from the incident. Medical professionals worked tirelessly to stabilize me, and eventually, the bleeding ceased. The mortality rate for such conditions is alarmingly high. After recuperating, I was moved to a private room and glimpsed my daughter, who was in the NICU at another hospital. It felt as though I already knew her, despite having no recollection of meeting her before. Upon leaving the hospital, I felt disoriented and suffered from memory loss. However, oddly enough, fear eluded me. Once anxious and driven, I now felt entirely transformed, reveling in newfound freedom. Several weeks later, I recalled my near-death experience in a dream, more vivid than reality itself. Attempts to convey it to others fell short, as they struggled to grasp its depth. Seeking guidance, I reached out to Dr. Jeffrey Long, who advised me to heed my dreams, unbeknownst to him that my NDE memory surfaced in a dream. In the months following my daughter's birth, memory challenges plagued me as I embarked on a new career as a physician assistant. Torn between my former self and the person I had become, I traversed through various medical specialties in search of fulfillment, perpetually feeling dissatisfied. I buried my NDE encounter, denying myself the wisdom it imparted. However, over the past 3 years, I've delved into inner exploration, embracing my authentic self. I've come to realize that my purpose in life is to love and inspire others to do the same. I died and discovered the ultimate secret prepared to have your mind blown. Imagine you're riding your bike home one evening. It's October, and the sun is setting, casting long shadows. You're going downhill when out of nowhere, a car zooms towards you from the wrong side of the road. You can't avoid it. Next thing you know, you're in this weird, weightless state. It feels like you're floating in this warm, bright light, like being in a cozy bath. You look around, and all you see is this intense glow. You can't make out anything specific. Even your own body looks different, transparent, and glowing. Trying to make sense of things, you look at your feet. Suddenly, you're not floating anymore. You're standing on this platform surrounded by shimmering light. And then come the voices and noises. It's like you're in a dream, but it feels real. You're curious, so you think about moving. Just like that, you're pulled down through the light until you're hovering above a scene in accident. There's a young guy on the ground, and people are trying to help him, but it seems hopeless. You hear them say, "He's gone. There's nothing we can do." Seeing this, you feel a mix of emotion, sadness, but also this strange surge of energy. It's like a jolt of electricity, but not scary. It's like you're connected to something bigger. Suddenly, you understand things in a new way. You realize you're part of something divine, spread across different worlds all at once. You see beams of light coming from you, all colors of the rainbow, connecting you to everything. You can see through objects, feel people's emotions, and sense their energy. Those helping the guy have this warm aura around them, while others seem dark and troubled. You start wondering if these energies are linked to our feelings and experiences. As you focus on the injured guy, you realize you're him, reliving the whole accident. And just like that, you're back on your bike, witnessing everything again, but from a different perspective. It's like a bolt of understanding hit me. We're not just this body we see in the mirror every day. There's another part of us, our soul, our energy body. That's the real deal. It's like our soul is renting this physical body for a bit while we're here on Earth. But we're not stuck in this body bubble. There's more to us. I used to think so much about my physical body, obsessing over its flaws and worries. But when I let go of that fixation, Hoa, it was like a weight off my shoulders. I felt like I could breathe easier, like all the stress and pain stored in my body just evaporated. Then came this tug, pulling me back towards this bright platform. I went with the flow, and as I ascended, I felt this warmth all around me. There were these 5 figures, glowing like they were made of light crystals. It was like meeting old pals after a long time. Our energies mixed, painting the space around us in a riot of colors. I soared higher, riding waves of light vibes that made me feel like I could conquer anything. These light beings, they didn't talk with words, but with colors that spoke straight to my mind. We just basked in this feeling of love and unity, like we were all part of this big cosmic dance. Then one of them said, "Okay, time to move forward. You're up for what's next." They started gearing me up for this journey into the unknown, cranking up the energy around me. It was like getting ready for a roller coaster ride, but in the cosmos. I felt myself slipping into this comfy zone, surrounded by darkness. My buddies vanished, and I was left in this calm darkness, curious about what's on the horizon. It was like this magnetic force pulling me forward, like a whisper saying, "Come on, let's see what's out there." I zoomed through this tunnel at warp speed, surrounded by vibes that felt like a warm hug from 1,000 suns. I could hear this cosmic melody, like the universe was humming a tune just for me. It was like watching the most breathtaking light show, but you're not just watching, you're part of it. And then it hit me hard. There's no such thing as the end. It's just a shift, a transition to something bigger and brighter. I was zooming towards this epic light, feeling like I was hitching a ride on a shooting star through the cosmos. The closer I got, the more intense the vibe, like standing in front of a supercharged rainbow. The light was alive, pulsing with energy and colors that made the whole universe seem like a giant crystal palace. The light hit me like a warm hug from someone I've known forever. It was this radiant being with a grin so big it could light up the sky, arms wide open like they'd been waiting for me. I slowed down, taking in the scene. It felt like stepping into a familiar place after a long journey. We were on this high spot, surrounded by nature so perfect it felt unreal. Below us, a river snaked through a valley, and in the distance, this powerful light glowed, too intense for words. I couldn't help but wonder if that was the famous Crystal City folks talk about. The whole vibe was beyond anything I could wrap my head around. The being's presence pumped me full of this energy, and suddenly I felt like everything in this world of light was all tied together, like one big, harmonious family. As I stood there, soaking it all in, I felt this wave of joy, love, and happiness wash over me. People often ask if I met Jesus or something, but nah, it wasn't like that. I could describe this being in detail, but for reasons I'll keep to myself, I won't. The being and I connected without words, just vibes and thoughts. They threw a question my way, asking where all the love, spontaneity, laughter, and joy were among us earth dwellers. They pointed out how we're all stuck in this cycle of darkness, conflicts, and separations, missing out on what really matters during our short time here. To help me grasp it better, they showed me images of how life was supposed to be. The idea was simple yet profound. We should all just get along, find balance, and spread love like it's going out of style. I got a peek at Earth from a different angle. Same scenes, but everything was made of this transparent energy instead of solid stuff. I could see these beams of light connecting everything, from people to animals, plants, even the planet itself. We're all in this energy dance together, sharing these vibrant vibes. And even now, I still see life through this non-physical lens. The being walked me through how things were supposed to work down here. It was like floating in this bubble of happiness, warmth, and healing. The lesson was simple yet profound: love yourself, love others, forgive, understand. It's the basic recipe for a good life. All this wisdom I'm sharing, it's not from some grand mission. I'm just a regular Joe who wants to pass on what I've learned. Folks often wonder how I packed so much into just 8 minutes on the other side when I was declared out time. There isn't like here, it's more about vibes than clocks. You don't learn in minutes, you dive into different vibes that give you a full picture instantly. It's not about the clock ticking, it's about that soul connection that sticks with you, no matter what time zone you're in.